This Pitch Breakfast video is brought to you by Spangler and Agins.
This guy, he's looking at his inbox. We can all relate to that feeling, right? We're overloaded with email every day. Does anybody know the average amount of email that business users send and receive in a day? Any guesses? Yeah, it feels like it.
500.
Well, fortunately not quite that high. According to the Radicati Group, they regularly study this statistic. Business users send and receive about 121 emails a day. But that is over 600 in a week, and they only project the number to keep going up. The problem is, most of us were never educated in how to use this communication tool well. As a result, there's a lot of inefficiency out there. Relationships get inadvertently damaged. Careers and companies get held back. The question is, do we keep settling for this status quo? I don't personally know all of you, but I do know that if you're here at Pitch Breakfast, you don't like to settle. So I ask you not to settle when it comes to your email. Email is such a critical communication tool. I want you to consider enhancing your skills in that area by working with my company, Email Lemonade. We believe you can take those sour, frustrating emails and turn them into something more refreshing. Email Lemonade. For individuals, the benefits are that it'll help you be more effective, enhance your personal brand, and build stronger relationships. For companies, it'll help your team save time, allow them to be more focused, and build a more positive company culture. According to a study by McKinsey, we spend about 28% of our workday on email. That means in a typical work week, we're spending about a day and a half just reading and responding to messages. To put it in dollar terms, let's say the average employee is costing the company conservatively about $100,000 between salary and benefits. That means the company's investing about $28,000 in that person's email each year. For a group of 15, that's $420,000. For a group of 50, $1.4 million a year. Don't you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of that investment in time and money? Of course. And that's where Email Lemonade comes in. Email Lemonade provides training in approaching and writing email better. Our training is based on 4 key ingredients. We teach the right subject, the right people, the right message, and the right responsiveness. We get into things like when not to send email, how to craft good subject lines, avoiding that dreaded reply all overload. You know, we all face that. How to manage that overloaded inbox, crafting messages with the right tone. We tailor all our training for the individual company and time needs. Whether it's one day of on-site training or just a 1-hour webinar. We want to know, are you using Gmail or Outlook? What are your pain points? Who are you communicating with, internal or external? Some of our training is more general. For example, kids right out of college, they need a review of the basics ASAP. But we can also focus on more specific topics like international email communication, client-facing communication, how to deliver feedback, and how to write concisely. We're typically hired by leaders of teams within medium to large organizations. They tend to be the ones that are feeling the pain the most and have the training budgets. But we're passionate about helping anyone who wants to improve their skills. Has anybody ever been to training where the instructor said some things that sounded good in theory but just didn't work in real life? Anybody? Yeah, I've definitely been there too. That's not going to happen with Email Lemonade. The Email Lemonade approach is based on 10 years of business experience. It's practical. It works in the real world. For example, the Email Lemonade approach helped a small team at Jockey International rebuild relationships with 19 offices around the world and roll out globally adopted product, packaging, websites, retail and marketing campaigns in less than 4 years. What all this means for you is that you're getting practical, proven skills that you can use every day. I believe people often settle for email lemons because they don't know any better. You all don't have that excuse. Now you know there's a better way, an Email Lemonade way. It'll help you be more effective, enhance your personal brand, and build stronger relationships. Regardless of what you want to accomplish in your career or in life, those are 3 pretty great things to have on your side. I want to leave you today with 3 things. Number 1 is you go off and face your daily deluge of emails and also start firing them off. Please think of Email Lemonade and let us know if we can be of service to you or your organization. Number 2, I'm going to place a sign-up sheet by the exit out here so that you can indicate if you're interested in individual or group training. Number 3, if you would like regular tips and tricks on writing and managing your email better, I invite you to follow the Email Lemonade blog. You can do it directly at emaillemonade.com, follow it on the Email Lemonade Facebook page, or connect with me and follow me on LinkedIn. Don't settle for email lemons. Send Email Lemonade. Thanks for letting me pitch to you all today. Thank you.
What do you think?
So I'll start. So I presume from your close there, this was really a sales pitch, right?
Yes, it
Okay.
was.
They're timing us too. Now we're on.
The pressure's on.
We got time.
So a couple. I'm just going to do a couple points. First, very nice job. I like kind of the pacing, and especially without a mic and having to deal with that up front. So nicely done. One of the things I would suggest you do up front, I spent probably the first 3 or 4 minutes kind of trying to figure out in my head, okay, Email Lemonade, interesting name, I'm not really sure what it means, and I didn't have anything to go with. And if you'd said something like, okay, I deal with the problem of email etiquette or something short, right, so that you can get people a little focused on, okay, here's what I'm talking about, that would have helped, because as I said, I was struggling to kind of figure out, the problem you were solving and what Email Lemonade actually was. And I'm a big believer in getting that out, and if you can do it by analogy, we are to email like something else is to something else, and I couldn't figure out a good answer to that, but you should.
Fair enough.
I think I think there was a better way to also beat up on how much time. I mean, one of the pain points we all do, I can tell you I get a lot more than 121 emails, or have to deal with more than 121 emails a day, and I think it's a universal problem. So I would have probably hit that point harder, right? That we and you got to some of it. 28% of your workday spent on dealing with email. That the vast majority of which is probably not very productive. So I would have gotten to that. Your target market, who you were selling to, you got there eventually. It was medium to large organizations, but if you were really selling to that, then who was your target? Is it heads of HR? I wasn't clear of who you were selling to.
Okay.
And that may be, again, part of that is what are the reasons? And I think a big part of your sale probably has to be, we're going to make your workforce more productive. So I would get in kind of, here's why you should actually pay for my service, right? And that wasn't really clear. I'll turn it over.
Great, thanks. Great job.
Thank you.
I talk to a lot of startups every week, and one of the things that really separates a good startup from a not so good startup is the background on the founder themselves. I really would have liked to know a little bit about you. What was the original idea for you to get into this, and why are you qualified to make this unique? And the employees that you hire, that train. I was real curious a little bit about that differentiating factor. I didn't really hear any of that. Another thought that crossed my mind was, in a downturn economy, not that we're in one right now, but training is always the first thing cut, and then contractors, and it's just always across the board at the enterprise level. I'd be curious how you can combat that, should that, because it would directly impact your business if that's all you're doing is training. And how do you scale? What type of revenue are you currently at, and how many employees do you have? I would love some background information on that as well.
Okay, fair enough. Would you like me to talk about some
Yes,
of that right
please.
now?
Yeah, we still have 7 minutes.
Okay, sure. Well, I had the idea born out of frustration in the workplace. Right now, Email Lemonade is just me, full disclosure. I say we, it sounds a little bit better, but it is a one-woman show at this point. But it was born out of my frustration in the corporate environment. I worked for Jockey International for close to 10 years, a lot of that working internationally, actually. So that example that I mentioned in there was actually during time that I was there, and through our methods, or my methods, of handling email in the workplace. But one day I had moved out of that division, and I happened to overhear a conversation going on with some of my colleagues sitting nearby, and they were complaining about an email that they had received from someone right down the hall. And I knew this woman, she's a nice lady, but they were complaining because clearly she was confused, and they're like, oh, she's so stupid, what's going on? And it really made me upset, because clearly they were just gonna send another one-liner further perpetuating the confusion, instead of getting up off their rear ends and going and talking to that person. And so I was so frustrated in that moment. To soothe myself, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start writing down all of those things that I use to preach and train and coach my direct reports on, and certainly that I used every day. It had always been something we talked about, but I'd never put it in writing. And after I did that, it was kind of a top 10 list that day. I thought, wait a second, why don't we get trained in these skills? They're so critical to how we communicate and do business every day, but they're an afterthought, if they even get thought of at all. And so then I thought, well, wait a second, maybe this is something that I could do. And that was several years ago, and the idea didn't leave me. It stuck in there. And finally, earlier this year, things aligned for me to finally be able to start the business myself. And so far, so good with it. So I'm trying to expand, especially in the Charlotte area, acquiring new clients.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
A quick follow-up. So one of the things also, if on a selling pitch, people are kind of like lemmings. They like to have people around them in crowds. So if you talk about some of your existing clients that you've had success with, I think it helps, right? These are the kind of organizations that I'm already working with. And I think it might have been pretty effective, to show a little bit about, and I know yours is a training product, right? So it's a little bit hard to show, but if you did something like had a before email and an after email, right? Because I'll take it back when I first joined a predecessor to B of A. Believe it or not, they put, you probably remember this, Vic, they put most of us through a management advancement program, and in that we actually had etiquette class, and sorry, I probably failed it, but they at least tried to train us a little bit. I mean, literally sitting there on, what knife and fork to pick up at a dinner, literally the whole bit, right? Probably don't do that anymore, but I'm a big believer that, there is no etiquette on email, right? I mean, emails can be pretty ugly, but if you did like a before email of here's here's what typically goes out in a big organization, and here's what it would look like after my training. That might be a little bit more effective for people to be able to see what the outcome of your training would be.
Certainly. I can absolutely do that because you're right, there is a lot of ugliness out there. I think I struggled probably a little bit knowing the time constraints, okay, how much to incorporate in that timing, what is going to be the most effective for all of you. Anything else?
Let's go to the audience. Anybody got questions, comments? In the back there?
One thing that was occurring to me when you were making...
Can you stand up, please, so we can all hear you? Thank you. You have a microphone.
Hi. You did a great job. I love the presentation. One thing that I was thinking about actually when presenting was that email is just one choice of communication channel. And I imagine, based on the example that you gave, that there are multiple alternatives, face-to-face, phone calls, meeting, maybe, that you're going to offer as an alternative to using email in some situations. And I think that if you were to incorporate that acknowledgement that yes, you are training people on email, and as part of that training is to recommend alternatives, which might lead to other trainings you might need to take to be effective, and then that might even be a way for you to expand your business to offer how you conduct a good meeting and how you have a good face-to-face conversation and those sorts of things. So that was just excuse me, what was going on.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, Nathan.
Can you please tell us more about how you came up with the name Email Lemonade?
Oh, sure. I would like to attribute it to marketing genius, but it was actually an accident, like a lot of great inventions and ideas. I was sitting in bed with my husband one evening with the laptops, which is something I don't like to do, but happened to be doing it that evening, and was trying to brainstorm, like, hey, what's this name I can come up for my business? What would stand out and be a little bit different? And I would come up with different things, but they all sounded kind of lame. And I'd Google search them, and it'd just be a wash in results of similar sounding email etiquette stuff. But I kept digging deeper and thinking, okay, what does this really do? And I started to say email eliminator. It helps rid emails. But when I said email eliminator, my husband happened to mishear me and think I said email lemonade. And he's like, email lemonade? And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't say that. And we laughed. But then I was like, well, wait a minute, email lemonade. That is great, because we are turning those sour email lemons into something more refreshing. So there you go.
Did you have a question?
Yeah. So I wanted to reinforce like an example or something, because a lot of people probably think they're good at email and they're not.
That's true. You're right. It's always the other guy.
Those people that they're bad at email, they need like
Okay, thank you.
In back there, yes.
I wanted to say that last pitch I sat next to Cheryl and she came to my aid. I had spilled my coffee all over me and she helped clean it up, so I consider her a friend now and helped her let her clean up her.
Thank you.
Any other, yes.
So I'm a former HR manager, so I was kind of thinking about this as a customer potentially, and so two kind of common questions. I guess the first would be, do you have any measures of effectiveness for your training, and are you able to share that, that you've helped other clients reduce this amount of time in email or increase capacity or something like that? Because as an HR manager, I have to go back to my CEO and say, this is why we need the training, this is how it's going to help the business. So do you have things like that you can share in your presentation?
That's certainly something I need to have, and I'm working to build it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to quantify immediately what that exact number of minutes that it saved. But I do like to think of it in terms of not just the email writing time, but the distraction time. So for example, if pre-email lemonade, you would spend 3 minutes writing a given email, you just fired it off. But then that resulted in 2 more emails, and you had to spend another 3 minutes on each one of those. That's 9 minutes total. But it's been found in studies that it takes about 64 seconds to recover from the distraction of email. So for those 2 additional emails, you just took an extra 2 minutes out of your day, which starts to add up given all the emails that we send. So with Email Lemonade, if you spent 9 minutes constructing a more thoughtful email that doesn't result in all that additional back and forth, yeah, the actual email writing time between those 2 was still 9 minutes, but you've saved that additional distraction time. So that's one way I'm trying to start thinking about it, but I do hope to eventually be able to give some more hard numbers based on the Email Lemonade approach.
I mean, even like a survey or something from your clients saying, scale 1 to 5, how much more effective do you feel like you've gotten after the training, to share that would be really helpful. And then my other comment was, I like instant gratification, I guess. And so after hearing your pitch, I'm like, I want to know how I was emailing. I mean, to be honest, I was emailing like in the beginning of your pitch, and then I heard what you were doing. I said, okay, I should probably listen to this. And
Thank you.
one of the things I was thinking, I was like, it would be great in your pitch, maybe even to have, I don't know if you want to give away anything in terms of your content, but even like a little tidbit, like here's some, here's a quick tip for all of you to take home today. I think would catch people's attention.
Fair enough.
Just real quick, I wouldn't underestimate the international piece of it, because I've worked in that environment for many years. The opportunity for miscommunication is enormous, and a little bit of help there would go a very long way, particularly if you monetize it, as someone else said. Figure out what you're really saving from a top line viewpoint, not a cost per minute.
Okay, fair enough. And I mean, like you're right, it does become so much more dramatic, because say you had that 3 email exchange, it might take place over 3 whole days, throwing off your project management timeline versus if you could get that accomplished in a day. The time zones definitely are more problematic there.
All right, thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you all.